Looks a little bit more presentable. Um, whilst I'm recovering from the surgery, which we know I had from my previous videos, and for those that might not be aware and not wanting to sort of go through all the other ones, it's just my gallbladder. So I'm currently waiting for my abdomen wall where they went in through keyhole surgery to heal, because obviously any sort of lifting might result in a hernia, and of course opening wounds. I'm currently stapled up. I'd show you, but it's not the best looking thing, and as much as I can click that this video isn't made for kids, you still don't want to have to look into my belly button and navel. So yeah, it's a very strange button, because when I'm setting it up, I've got to sort of go through all these bits and bats and say, is this video made for kids? And it always seems really weird to me to have to consider that I'm making a video for kids, which I don't feel like I am. Right, just before, probably about 2 or 3 days before I went in for the surgery, I was on Reddit, and yeah, I'm that guy. And I saw a post which suggested that something was happening, but they didn't want to speculate on it, so they'd closed all the boards and whatnot. I'm going to sneeze momentarily. It's going to hurt, because coughing and sneezing really hurts right now. And I did think to myself, oh no, this isn't something small. You know, we've had, for anyone that's got like a sort of fandom of anything from childhood, you'll know that you know, you carry it through with you, and you're familiar, and you check back in on it every now and again. And there's been a series of tragedies, and people speculate as to whether there's a curse or not. But when I read this, the first thing that popped in my head was, oh no, not that guy, not that guy. And I put it to the back of my mind, thinking, nah, people are just being idiots. But what ended up transpiring was a couple of days, no, not even that, probably the next morning, all of a sudden I look on YouTube, and there's a series of tribute videos to Jason David Frank. For those who don't know who Jason David Frank is, where have you been? You know? I mean, I guess you could have been anywhere else, because it's a bit geeky to like Power Rangers, let's be honest. We're a special kind of guys and gals. I'm just going to save some electricity by turning this telly off behind me, because it's just reeling off pictures. I'm still here though. I'm still here. I'm just, there we go, trying to be a bit more conscious about saving electricity in this current climate. So anyway, let's start for those of the uninitiated. Jason David Frank was a martial artist who joined in, I think, mid-season 1 to a TV show that's commonly known as Power Rangers. At the time, it was known as Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and it was when I was 6 years old. And my granddad was the only person I knew who had Sky TV. So there used to be this animated cat that host, and he said, oh, this brand new show, Power Rangers, and I watched it, and it blew me away. The imagery, the music, the choreography, everything about it was just amazing, except for these really dodgy, you know, moments, which were the American film scenes. But I didn't know that at the time. You know, you don't sort of analyze things at 6 years old, and if you do, power to you, you know. The next couple of weeks after that, I spent drawing pictures of these Power Rangers and telling people in the playground about what they were, and getting the most cockeyed looks. Maybe a month or 2 later, it hit the UK, and it just hit like a wave, just like a tsunami, and it just took the world by storm. And then, I could play the games, you know, and the action figures came out and the merchandise and the music, and it was just an onslaught and it was amazing. And as I say, mid-season one, they introduced this Green Ranger who was basically part of the original storyline. Now, Power Rangers to this day still use footage from Japan. So they take all the masked footage and they pass it on to writers who say, right, make something of that. So then the writers then have to put together this American footage storyline and then make it tie in and then package it off and give it to the public or the fans, let's be honest. And as part of that storyline, they had a brother to Geki, who was known as the Red Jew Ranger. And I sound so geeky, I know, but once you go down the rabbit hole, you learn things and you just cannot get rid of it. And that's why I'm just all over the map when it comes to talking about it. But anyway, still building up to who Jason David Frank was. Get on with it, Paul. All right, okay. So he was brought in to portray this, essentially, he was a villain character who was Geki's brother, but he'd been sworn against the original Red Ranger, who then had the spell broken, and he was given a green candle. As soon as the green candle burned out, his life was over because he died centuries ago. They changed that again, taking that footage, and they gave this Green Ranger to Jason David Frank, who at the time was sort of a green headband, mid-length hair, and he just came in and he was a tour de force. Because as much as we love Jason, Billy, Trini, Zach, Kimberly, you know, we saw this new guy come in and he was a badass, you know. And they gave him like a small stint that tailed off where he became a bit of a good guy. Then they were going to take his powers, ship him off, and then crack on with using the footage that they had. Little did they know that Tommy would become this. Tommy's the character that Jason David Frank played, the Green Ranger. He would become this icon of the franchise, and he embodied the character. And this is the thing: you see a lot of actors who will play a role and then they will cast it aside. They might revisit it, they might wear the costume. Peter Weller as RoboCop, brilliant performance, absolutely iconic film. He acknowledges it, and he did more recently start to he's worn like a cardboard box on his head with a little slit for the eyes and the RoboCop written on the forehead, and you know, it's like stealth mockery, and he did the voiceover for some adverts or something. But before then, I'm an actor, I portrayed that role. It's the past. Thank you for acknowledging it, but I've also done XYZ. So yeah, back to Power Rangers, Jason David Frank. He then became another character because they couldn't get rid of him, because parents, the old story goes that parents were writing in to Saban Entertainment and saying, my kids, they've become depressed since the Green Ranger's gone. So they had to bring him back, and they gave him what was going to be a completely new character's costume in the White Ranger, Tiger Zord, back to Jason David Frank. The actor then went on to a completely different show called VR Troopers. Honestly, if you write this down, you look into it, you're going to end up feeling, you know, a bit overwhelmed, but as soon as it all coalesces and all the pieces fit into place, you're going to be just as enthralled as me, and then inevitably you'll probably think, well, I mean, he's got that wrong or that wrong, and oh my god, even now I'm geeky. Like I've joined the ranks, oh lord. But the passing of the torch went on from the Green Ranger, White Ranger to the Red Ranger of a show called Zeo, which was like the next Sentai footage, because they'd run out. They had squeezed it to the point where they even had to ask the Japanese, I think it's Tokai, if you're there and you're watching, comment down below and let me know. um, who had to then go and film a completely separate bit of footage using all the original costumes to send over to America because they had completely just drained it, squeezed every last part out of it that they could. So they got the Green Ranger, White Ranger, Red Ranger, Red Ranger. He then went off and he wanted to do something different, but he couldn't really do anything because he was so well known and so stuck with the Power Rangers brand that he then, I think he just went into conventions and stuff. He tried a couple of bits and bats. There's a sort of a, I'm not going to speculate, I don't really know at that point, but he did come back into conventions and he then rejoined another show where he played a mentor but also had a costume, which was Dino Thunder. Never watched it. Seen a couple of episodes, got a bit iffy, but by that time he'd become almost like a caricature of himself where he was hyperactive and he was eager and excitable. And as time goes along now, you can reflect back on that and realize that very much like the Robin Williams before him, he was putting forward something that he wanted other people to feel, so they didn't feel what he felt, and that's my analysis of it. But then he became a bit more of a savvy businessman, and he was always talking about his haters and how much he resented the original actor Austin St. John, who played the original leader in the original show. Became quite bitter about that, and he had a couple of run-ins with a guy called CM Punk. He also had a run-in briefly, which has been since resolved, obviously, with Jean-Claude Van Damme, and he had another one with someone else, but he went into MMA, got taken seriously, kicked a couple of butts, and yeah, he did really well, and he really smashed the convention scene. He's prior to his death, he's actually made a gritty film, which is more mature, obviously gritty, you know. But he's using not the original IP, but a sort of deviation from it, so that his fans can, you know, move over with him, but not feel too like it's disassociative. They did try and make a film called The Order, where everyone played like military types. There's a trailer out there for it, but I don't think it ever came to pass because of funding or something. But there's a lot of the original alum in there, and it just doesn't look like the kind of film that a Power Rangers fan would want to watch, because you're always waiting for that moment where they'd, you know, there's a camera, morphin' time, you know, and then it'd suit up. And yes, I do own a couple of replica morphers there in the garage, and I would have got them out. Where's the camera? I would have got them out, I tell you, because it's such an epic visual, and that's what really drew me in and kept me in the Power Rangers brand. Always going all over the shop. The imagery of you know, Zyuranger, the Sentai, the dragon green helmet, the shield, the dragon shield, the Tyrannosaurus helmets, just the even to that extent, the lesser characters, you know, if you put them in that original packaging that I had as a kid, and you play that original music, it just takes me back, and it's the best feeling. So that's why when I watch stuff like that, I do get wrapped up in it, because, you know, you might walk into a room, see me watch Power Rangers and go, big geek. But everyone should be able to acknowledge that, and everyone should be able to partake in what they enjoy, because it's what makes us all human. We can't just constantly be evolving and not acknowledging the past. I'm sat on a really bony bit of the sofa and it really hurts. Because it'd be ridiculous to constantly be trying to reinvent yourself, you know, not take on who we've been in the past. Because we learn from that. Not only do we learn who we are, but we also learn who we don't want to be. And, you know, it's those things that take you back and make you happy, and you should live in that. You know, don't try and, you know, time capsule yourself, but certainly don't parcel it up and get rid of it, because that'd just be ridiculous. And that's the way I see it. So when I got the opportunity to meet him, I did. And I've got some signed bits and bats, and I got to have a picture taken with him. And it was just, it's almost like he'd balanced out from that haters businessman. I'm going to drive in my posh car and take videos. But there was a strange sort of, looking back in those pictures, there's just a sadness. And I don't think anyone, we can always speculate, but he had his brother die at an early age. He had his mother die 5, 6 years ago. His stepdaughter died, and he was having troubles with his marriage. And they had all but adopted the daughter's child. Her dad was then having sort of legal proceedings put against Jason and his wife, and it just all obviously got too much. And on top of his anxieties and his own mental health issues, which I think would be ignorant to not acknowledge that everybody's got something. We've all got those issues that we carry with us, and all we can do really is acknowledge them, and try our best, to get help with them, because he ended his life, and yet he was such a motivational and seemingly positive guy. And like I say, he never, other than to have a talk like this to say it exists, it's real, your pain is real, and if you bottle it up and let that pressure of being a man get to you, you will revert back to that most basic of instinct, and that's just to shut it all down. And there's an extreme of that, and I think we've all been there, and that's the problem, is that no one's really willing to acknowledge it without it sounding edgy. I'm not like the other girls. I cut myself when I was younger. I've tried to kill myself. It's a truth that we feel, but when we say it out loud, it just makes, maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but it just comes across as a little bit more like a remnant of being a teenager. I'm unique, I'm an individual. I said all of that shit stuff myself, and yeah, you hear it and you think, oh. But the problem is now is that we are without a guy who everyone just thought was always going to be there. 17 minutes in, I'm sorry, I'm waffling, and it's really sad, and I'm hit by it every day, because you just always think that someone who's as positive for his fans, for his art, and for his passions would just end it that way. It hits really hard, because you always imagine that those people are always going to be in your life. And I met him briefly. He's got children, he has a wife, he has friends, he has neighbors. He was a real guy. But every time I see that picture and I'm reminded of it, I just wish I could have gone back to that moment when I met him and not have tried to keep it together so much. Because I shook his hand and I had a chit chat. I wanted to treat him like a normal person. I wanted to make sure that he knew that he had an impact, and I told him that I'd got the ticket bought for me especially. It was a Father's Day gift, I think. And I tried not to say it. I didn't want to be cliche again, but I shook his hand at the end and I said, thank you for being such a hero. And I walked away and I cringed, and I thought, oh God, why did that just come out of me? But it was so instinctive. But I wish, knowing now what I knew, I in my picture with him, I have my hand on his back, and I think, why didn't I just bring him in and just say, don't put on this front for us. Don't feel like you have to be the man, be a person. Come out of that big protective bubble that we put around ourselves and say, no, I'm not going to acknowledge it. Get inside, you know that it's affecting you, or he knew it was affecting him. I don't want to speak for anyone particularly. And yeah, it's a really, really difficult one to get through, because every day you're reminded of it, and every day someone's putting out a new video that they took with him, and you see him doing, moves with kids when he's showing them how to hold themselves and kick and do a key and whatnot. And then you see him do videos where he's doing like this, going live and talking, or you see him do pre-recorded videos where he's in a convention and he's got his fans reacting in a certain way, and it's interactive. It was never him and them, it was all of them together. And now we've sort of got an empty space right at the top of that as fans, and it's going to be difficult to watch his new film when it comes out, knowing that he was so excited for it and he put so much into it, and he's never going to hear the feedback. He's never going to get to see people enjoy it. So if you're feeling alone, if you're feeling like you've got nothing left, if you feel like you are, just in the worst possible place, there is always someone out there that wants you, that needs you, and that you would be, remiss to assume doesn't have any sort of love for you, because they do. Everyone's got someone, even if you think you have absolutely no one, even if it's someone you haven't met yet, there is someone out there. So what it all comes down to is, whilst I'm healing, whilst I'm getting better from my surgery, I want to throw out some of my thoughts, because I've got nothing but time to sit around and tinker on my phone and watch TV and just wait to get back into life. That I want to vlog. I want to put this to celluloid, show people that I once had hair for when I'm old and grey and bald, even though it did look like rat tails because it hadn't been washed. There we go. Could have done that earlier on, couldn't I? And try and put out something of a positive message using my own experience as well, because I'm an old git now, and got a lot to say. I've put the world to rights with hundreds of people, and all ever comes to is just a wave and parting of ways. There's no platform that I've had like this before, and hopefully one day it can be found and people will enjoy it, agree, disagree, tell me I'm a gobshite all over the map. Already told you. I already know. The next one will probably be something on the same lines, but probably a little bit more fun, hopefully, because it's been a bit of a crappy couple of days. I say a couple of days, it was about a week ago now. But to see videos of him up and about and enjoying life, and it's only a couple of weeks ago that all this was happening, and now it's all gone, and he's buried, and you're just like, phew. So you got to get that, get it out, and here we are. So thank you for listening to that. If there's anything I missed, I'm sorry. I don't watch these things back. I can't stand this. I can't stand the sound of my own voice, even though you wouldn't believe it. I know that, if anyone feels like they need to be mean, just know with the context, within the context of this video, I don't take it particularly well. I don't think anyone does. We can all say we've got, tough outer shell and water off a duck's back and all that. Still not nice. Just think about what you're going to write. Don't jump in there and say you hate my voice. I already hate my voice. Stop using your hands so much. The Italian nose should give it away. This is how I speak. Big fish, little fish, cardboard box. You're over there. Right, I'm gonna go. Thank you if you have watched this. If you have tracked back through them and hopefully see a progression, then it's working. That's what this is for. I'm going to get comfy in front of the camera and try and do something that's a little bit more professional than me up walled in the sofa. Till next time, let's do the awkward ending. Let's see if we've got any better at this. Wait a second. Okay, right, you ready? I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to go, because I did this before and I'm really not a puncher. All right, until next time, skadoosh.